I never believed in ghost stories. Even after basic training, when the guys swapped tales in the chow hall or over beers, I figured most of it was to pass the time or haze the new recruits. But Vandenberg was different. It wasn't the kind of place that welcomed stories. It just swallowed them. By the time I got stationed there in '71, some of the older structures had already been condemned or converted, but the barracks I was assigned to, a creaking Wutu-era building from the Camp Cook days, still held onto its bones like it didn't know the war had ended. That's where I heard about room 212. No one slept in room 212. No one. It wasn't on the duty roster, and it wasn't listed in any of the barracks floor plans. Still, it was there, end of the hall, right past the fire extinguisher that never worked, with a door that always looked half open even when it wasn't. I first heard about it from Johnson, a guy who claimed to have been reassigned 3 times in 1 month. "They'll tell you it's a supply closet," he said, lighting a cigarette with a hand that trembled slightly. "But every now and then, they put someone new in there, somebody too new to know better." I asked why anyone would put a bed in a closet. He didn't laugh. "Because it doesn't like to be empty." The first time I saw the room, I thought it was a mistake. My name had been taped to the door. Cheap masking tape written in sharp black ink. The room number was scratched into the wood beneath, like someone had gouged it out with a key. There was no lock. Inside, it looked just like every other barracks room. Single bed, metal locker, foot locker at the base. But the air was different, heavier, like walking underwater. I stepped in and swore I heard something whisper. Not words, just a sound, like breath moving through the slats of an old vent. I checked the window, nailed shut. I didn't sleep much that first night. Mostly, I laid there, trying not to listen to the quiet. But at 3:11 a.m., something clicked. A sharp, mechanical sound. The kind of sound a door makes when it unlatches. But nothing moved. By morning, all my belongings were in the hallway, folded and neatly stacked. I never packed them. I thought maybe someone was hazing me, so I moved back in. That night, I locked my locker, stuffed my duffel bag under the bed, and placed a piece of tape across the inside of the door, just to be sure. Again, 3:11 a.m., the click, and again, in the morning, my stuff was outside. Even the tape on the door had vanished. This time, the bed looked slept in, but I had been on the floor. There was also a new detail. My boots were turned facing the door, like they were waiting for someone to step into them. On the third night, I brought in a notebook and pen, determined to write everything down. I didn't get far. The pen inked a few lines before sputtering out completely, and every time I looked away from the notebook, the last sentence seemed to change slightly. I'm in the room. I was in the room. The room is in me. That last one, the room is in me, made me slam the book shut. I reported it to Sergeant Dalker, who only raised an eyebrow. "They told me you'd probably bring this up," he muttered. "Let me guess. Whispering vents? Moved belongings? Feeling watched?" When I nodded, he leaned back, arms crossed. "We don't use that room, not since 1959. I asked why it was still assigned. "It isn't." He slid the clipboard across his desk. Room 212 wasn't listed. According to official records, the numbers skipped from 211 to 213. "But I have a key," I argued. "No," he said slowly, "you don't." And he was right. When I pulled out my key ring later that night, the key I used just the day before was gone. Still, I found myself at the door, still slightly ajar. My name still taped in perfect block letters, I wish I had walked away. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the bed, listening to the building breathe around me, and sometime around 2:45 a.m., I noticed it wasn't just air I was hearing. It was footsteps, slow, dragging, like boots through wet sand. They stopped right outside the door, and then, whispering, not just one voice, many, stacked atop each other like a choir underwater. I pressed my ear to the wall and felt it breathe. It pushed out warm air like a sigh, and I swear it said my name, not in a whisper, not in anger, in recognition. I snapped. I ripped the tape from the door, shoved my footlocker into the hallway, and begged Dalka for a reassignment. I was granted one, but only after signing an NDA I barely read. Something about sensitive psychological stressors and unfit habitation zones. Fine by me. Weeks passed, then months. I started dreaming about the room, not just being inside it, but becoming it. I'd dream I was lying flat, unable to move, with things walking across me. The air thick with the scent of oil, dust, and something metallic. At some point, the dreams stopped being just dreams. I remember one night waking up in my new bunk, only to see light flickering under the door. Not the hallway light. This was yellow, like candlelight. I opened the door, and instead of the base corridor, I saw wood-paneled walls, a long stretch of dark planks leading to a single familiar door at the far end. Room 212. I slammed the door shut. When I opened it again, the hallway was back. Another time, I found my boots perfectly aligned by the door again, facing outward like someone had tried them on. I lived alone then. My new assignment had private quarters. I didn't tell anyone, because by then, I had started hearing my own voice in the static of the base radios, just little fragments. "I'm still here," it would whisper, or "Let me back in." Sometimes I wasn't sure if I was hearing it through the speakers or through my own skull. Eventually, I had to go back, not for any official reason, just to know. I returned to the barracks late at night and made my way down the hall. But when I reached the spot where room 212 had been, there was only a blank wall, no door, no number, but faintly, like something burned into wood long ago, I could just barely make out my name. The hallway felt longer than I remembered, like I had walked farther than the length of the building should allow. I checked over my shoulder several times, only to see more hallway stretching behind me. Too much. I turned to leave and found I couldn't tell which way I'd come. The exit sign, always humming faintly red, had gone dark. I stood there, heart thumping in my chest like a drum. And that's when I saw it. Just for a second. Not a shadow, not a figure, a hole. Like a tear in the hallway itself. A section of air rippling like heat over asphalt. Behind it, blackness, shifting, oily. I blinked, and it was gone. Or I was. I don't remember walking back to my room. I don't remember going to bed. But I woke up in my bunk, sheets tangled, boots on, and the notebook from before resting on my chest. Only this time, a single phrase filled every page. "You are in the room." And so, the shadows stretch further, and the mystery only deepens. But this is far from the end. It's merely the beginning. What lingers beyond the door? Who is whispering your name? And what is that shifting in the corner of your eye? The answers await in the next chapter of these chilling tales. Subscribe to Nightfall Crypt and hit the notification bell, because the Crypt's secrets are endless and the darkness never sleeps. Until next time, stay in the light if you can.